bike grip today. So to get started, let's go into document settings right here. Click the arrow and we're going to convert our units to inches. So click on the little pencil icon right there. Click on millimeters and make sure you click on inches right here. Click OK. Once we've done that, we're ready to get started. Let's click on the create sketch icon right here. And we're going to hover over the XY axis on the bottom right here. And you're just going to click that once, and we have our sketch palette ready. Then we're going to be clicking on the 2-point rectangle tool right here. Click that once. And if this is collapsed, just click the plus button to open it up. And we're going to use the center rectangle tool. So click on that right there. Hover over the center of your workspace. And then click once, drag out. And we're going to be changing our dimensions here. So for our length here, we're going to go 1.25, and for our width we're going to go 5. So hit enter once you've got that. Once that's ready to go, we are going to zoom in a little bit here. I'm just going to minimize that, and we're going to place a small rectangle up on the top here. So click on your 2-point rectangle tool, hover over here, and just make a rectangle. You can see I've got my dimensions there. They can be around that. That's pretty good. Doesn't have to be exact. And then release, and it's going to tap again. So this doesn't have to be exact. It's just going to be a sort of a reference we're going to be pulling across the top here. So once you have your rectangle ready to go, we are going to use the rectangular pattern tool. So click on create, go down to rectangular pattern, click that once. And it's going to ask you what objects do you want to make a pattern out of. So I'm going to zoom in using my mouse scroll wheel. I'm going to tap 1, 2, 3, 4, the 4 sides of my rectangle. Ask me what direction do I want to go in. I'm going to select this line right here, click once, and how many am I going to make? So I'm going to go 34 of those. So I'm just going to zoom out a little bit now, and I'm just going to use this blue arrow here. I'm just going to pull in this direction. As long as there is a space in between these rectangles, that's going to be fine. So I'm just going to pull it right to about there. Pretty good. And then I'm just going to click OK. And you can see it puts our pattern down on our rectangle. So I'm going to click on the line tool now right here and hover over the center of my line. You can see there's a triangle with an X, which means I'm in the center. I'm going to click and drag all the way to the end, X and triangle again. And there we have a line across the center now. Now we're just going to click on the little triangle, the check mark on the top to finish sketch. And we're going to revolve this around to make the cylinder for the grip. So we're going to click on the revolve tool, which is up on the top right here. You can see it's right there. Also, if you click create, it's in your drop down menu right there. So I'm going to click on that. And it says the profile I want to use, and the profile is this profile right here. The axis I want to use is the axis we just created. And you see it kind of goes a lighter color. When I hover, that's the line we just created in the center. So I'm going to click on that. And you can see it builds and rotates around that axis, and you can actually grab this tool and make it different sizes, but we are going to do 360 degrees, so our grip is full all the way around the cylinder. So you can see it says Operation New Body here. Over on the side, this is going to create a new body. So watch what happens right here when I click here. You can see a new body folder is created. Inside that folder, we have our body, which is that. I'm going to double click that, and I'm just going to call this grip and hit enter so I know what it is. Okay, I'm just going to minimize that. I'm going to kind of move around this way to the end of the grip where I'm going to be placing the collar. So I'm going to create another sketch on the top here. I'm going to hover over this plane right on the edge right here. Make sure you're not anywhere else. You want to be on the end. Click here. And we are going to place a center diameter circle, which is right here in the center. I'm just going to hover, and I'm going to click and pull out, and I'm going to go to I'm going to make it quite large. So I'm going to click there. Now, once that's done, you can see it's got a sketch, and all I need to do is click Finish Sketch and click on this, click on the profile, and then I'm going to click the Extrude button, and I'm going to pull this profile this way. That's going to be the collar. So you can see, if I just change my view a bit, you can see I'm going to go right about there. Looks good. I know I don't want to join it. I want to create it as a new body. So I'm going to click that, click OK. And if you see, if I drop this down, I now have body 2, which is this collar. I'm going to click on that. and I'm going to call this collar. Hit enter. Now, if I feel like this collar is a bit too big, which it is, I can go back to my sketch on the timeline down here, the history, and I can double click that sketch and I can drag this in to make it a bit smaller. So let's say I want it a bit smaller like that, click finish sketch, and it will alter the extrusion or the feature here, which is great. You can always go back in your timeline down here and change things. Okay, let's go to the end of our grip, which is way down here, and we want to get at this face right here. But you can see it's kind of hard to get at. There's a lot of things in the way. So to get things out of the way, so we have a better view, we're going to click on Inspect, go down to Section Analysis right here, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this big face right here. Click once, and all I'm going to do is drag in, and you can see if I drag in, it gives me a lot better view. I can actually move things out of the way and do cross sections. So that looks pretty good right there. I'm going to click OK. If I click my drop-down menu on the side here, you'll notice now I have a section analysis. I can turn off and on when I want to see cross section. So I'm going to turn that on, and you can see inside there, there is this section. And I'm just going to click on the right of my cube so I can see the front of this. And I am going to put a work plane basically, I'll rotate this way. I want to put a work plane right on this piece right here, this face right that I'm hovering over. So I'm going to click on Create Sketch, hover over that face. You can see it right there. Click once and it's going to put me in my sketch view. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to my center diameter circle, click it once, hover over the center, and I'm going to drag out, and I'm going to make this, I'm going to zoom in a little bit with my mouse scroll wheel. You don't want to go over the top here, you don't want to go way in. I'm going to go kind of close to the edge, so maybe about there. And I'm going to click. You see it makes a purple line there. Okay, so what I'm going to do now with that purple line, and I'll see if I can drag this out. I'm going to click on the line tool, and I'm going to go right about, let's say about here. It doesn't really matter. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I'm going to make sure you're on the purple line here, not on the black line. You can see they both snap to X, but I want to make sure I'm on the purple line. So I'm going to click there. I'm going to drag out and snap it to the edge. You can see it makes an X again, and release. I'm going to back out. So I've got one line there, and I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to choose right around, let's say right around here. So I'm going to zoom in again. Make sure I'm on the purple line with the X, click and pull out, and it will snap to the edge right here with another X, and I'm going to release. Okay, when I finish that sketch, I'm just going to pull out a bit. You can see, if I'm using my select tool right here, and I click here, I've got a new profile that I can use to actually cut. And what I mean by that is if I rotate this way, and I click the extrude button, I'll also move the extrude down here so you can see what I'm doing. If I grab this arrow and pull this way, I can actually cut out of the side of the grip, which is handy because we're going to be putting some text in here. So I'm just going to cut out to about there. Looks pretty good. Here's the length that I cut. And then I'm just going to click, make sure I'm on cut here. I'm going to click OK. So that's going to cut. Now I'm going to turn off my section analysis so I can kind of see what this looks like. Looks pretty good so far. I want to get some letters in here and kind of popping out the end of the grip. So I'm going to kind of rotate to the other side. Obviously, this is not going to work. This will not slide on a handlebar very well. So I'm going to click on Modify. I'm going to go down to Shell, the Shell tool. I'm going to click on this face right here. Click once, and I'm just going to drag in a tiny bit. So maybe about 0.021 or 0.018. Just going to release it. You can see there's the amount right there. And I'm using the shell tool right here. Okay, so I'm going to click OK. Once that's done, it is shelled out the inside of my cylinder. Now I want to get text onto here. Now to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new sketch. And I want to use the ZX work plane, which is right here. Now you can see it's kind of a bit hard to see. So there's a couple different ways to do this. I would click on the origin tool here and click on the ZX, and that way it will create a sketch palette on the ZX plane, XZ. All right, now what I want to do, I want to put text on here. So I'm going to click Create, go down to Text, the text tool right here, and I'm just going to hover over. I'm going to put the text maybe about right there. And I'm going to call this pay dirt, just in capital letters there. I'm going to rotate it this way to about there. I'm going to kind of bring it down a little bit. about there, and I'm going to make it 0.5, so it's a bit bigger. I'm also going to change the style of text, so let's go artifact element, and I'll make it bold. Now, just be careful with the style of text you use here. Some text will not extrude well, so you might have to go back and edit that text. So I'm just going to click OK, so that's ready to go. Now it looks like it did alter and move my text a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the body off, and you can see here it's actually locked in on these two sides here. So this little thing here, little node, this line right here, I'm going to delete that line because that's locking my text in, and I don't want that. So I'm going to click on bodies, and I want to move this over, but it's still too far this way. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn the body off. I'm going to right click the text, and you can see there's my edit text function right there. When I edit the text, then I can move it a little bit, maybe that way. Click OK. I'm going to turn that body back on. That's a little bit better. That's where I wanted it. So that's how you edit the text, and you can edit the font too as well. Okay, so let's extrude this. So what we're going to do is we're just going to click on Finish Sketch right there, and I'm going to actually hover. You can hover over the text and click it, and it turns that purple color right there, and that means it's selected. So I'm going to click on Modify, this Press Pull tool right here. So Press Pull, and it's asking me to select. So I'm just going to click on that. Make sure I've selected the text right there. So it says one selected. And then it says Start Profile Plane. I'm going to go from Object, and I'm going to hover over this section right here once. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this arrow and push out. So you can see it pulls the text out, and you can kind of see it pull out right there. So it looks pretty good. And then I'm just going to make sure it's on join. I'm going to click OK. And there we go. We have the making of a pretty nice handlebar with some custom letters inside of it. So I kind of want to make this look a little bit nicer. So I'm going to right click the collar. I'm going to click on Appearance. And I'm going to go down to, if you look under Library, you can see there's lots of different folders. I'm going to click on Metal. I'll grab the anodized blue, drag it out, place it on there. And I'll drag it out again and place it on this face, and keep that. And you can see, bring that up, you can see that you can kind of start to customize your piece. So maybe the end here, I'm going to, the end, right. You can start to customize the different parts of your grip with different colors. So that's something you can go into if you start to want to alter appearances, and that's sort of another video we're going to work on. Okay, hopefully this video has been useful, and good luck making your grip.